Hello and welcome to the West Asia Post. I'm Ghadi Francis coming to you from Beirut, Lebanon. This is WION's special weekly show where we bring you all things new from the world's most volatile region. Gaza has been witnessing bombing for more than 365 days. The home to 2 million people has now been reduced to rubble. In the northern Gaza, refugee camps, hospitals, nothing has been spared. And from Gaza to Lebanon, Israel continues its bombing spree. A year has passed and diplomacy has failed to stop that in Gaza and in Lebanon.
You have an opportunity to save Lebanon before it falls into the abyss of a long war that will lead to destruction and suffering like we see in Gaza.
The scale of destruction in Gaza is unimaginable. The over 1 million displaced cannot return to their homes. It would take years to rebuild the strip the way it was before October 7. In the following report, we explore together why did diplomacy fail in Gaza.
The Gaza Strip is in ruins. Amid pools of disease-spreading, sewage-tainted water, hills of rubble abound, where apartment blocks once stood in the besieged enclave. Ever since the Hamas assault on Tel Aviv last year, Israel says its fight is against the Palestinian militant group. But Israel's year-long offensive, one of the deadliest in history, has claimed over 42,000 lives, with over half of them women and children. With no end in sight to the war and no plan for the day after, it is impossible to say when or even if anything will be rebuilt.
12 months of conflict in Gaza have resulted in deaths or injury of 6% of the total population. Many of the injured are women and children who are now facing permanent disabilities. 90% of Gaza's population has been displaced and is living in overcrowded camps with limited access to food, water, and health care.
At the end of January, the World Bank estimated $18.5 billion worth of damage, nearly the combined economic output of the West Bank and Gaza in 2022. UN agencies say unemployment has soared to around 80%, up from nearly 50% before the war, and that almost the entire population is living in poverty.
We want a solution and for the war to stop. We've had enough massacres. There are massacres every day here and there. The entire neighborhood here has been destroyed. Look at our homes, how they've been destroyed. We've been torn apart. We don't know where we're heading.
Wealthy Arab countries like Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates say they are only willing to contribute to Gaza's reconstruction as part of a post-war settlement that creates a path to a Palestinian state. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has ruled that out, saying he won't allow Hamas or even the Western-backed Palestinian Authority to govern Gaza.
The campaign must not be stopped prematurely. As long as the enemy threatens our existence and the peace of our country, we will continue to fight. As long as our hostages are in Gaza, we will continue to fight. We will not give up any of them. I will not give up.
As Washington calls for a regional ceasefire, it continues to provide political and military support for Israel. Is the expanding war failed diplomacy? Holding an ice cream cone, US President Joe Biden declared in February that a ceasefire in Gaza was so close that it might materialize within days.
We'll start, sir?
Well, I hope by the beginning of the weekend.
I mean, the end of the weekend. At least my national security advisor tells me that we're close. We're close. It's not done yet. And my hope is by next Monday, we'll have a ceasefire.
7 months later, not only has Israel's war on Gaza continued, but it has expanded, with Israeli troops bombing Lebanon as tensions and violence spill over thick and fast across West Asia.
Israel's attacks did start in Gaza but did spread to Lebanon. But the world is warning Israel. Lebanon cannot witness a Gaza-like destruction. In the southern Lebanese borders, a ground invasion is yet failing. And in Beirut, bombings are ongoing, also in southern Lebanon and in Bekaa. Scores of doctors have been killed. Health teams and rescue teams have been bombed. What's taking place in Beirut? We tell you more in this report.
A fresh wave of powerful explosions hit Lebanon's capital, Beirut. As Israel presses on its assault on the Hezbollah group, its military tanks are inching closer on its northern border with Lebanon. The UN peacekeeping forces stationed on Lebanon's border have accused Israeli troops of targeting its headquarters in the country. UN says 2 peacekeepers were injured when an Israeli tank fired at a watchtower at the force's main headquarters in Nakura. On Tuesday, a video showed armed personnel in military uniforms raising an Israeli flag in the southern Lebanese town of Maroun al-Ras, amid ground clashes along Lebanon's mountainous frontier with Israel. Last week, Israeli military struck outside the gates of a hospital in southern Lebanon without warning, killing 7 paramedics and forcing the facilities to close its doors. Lebanese Health Ministry said 40 paramedics, firefighters and healthcare workers were killed in Israeli attacks over 3 days, making it even more challenging to care for people wounded in the intense fighting.
You know, it's hard to work in fear. I'm afraid about myself, about my safety, first place, and about my family's safety in second place. Because, you know, there's no place safe in Lebanon now.
As Israel expands its operations in Lebanon's south, Tel Aviv has warned that Beirut might suffer a fate like Gaza. Israel's ally, the United States, has so far failed to de-escalate tensions between the 2 nations, while maintaining that Lebanon cannot become another Gaza in the region.
You have an opportunity that hasn't existed in decades. An opportunity to take care of the future of your children and grandchildren. You have an opportunity to save Lebanon before it falls into the abyss of a long war that will lead to destruction and suffering like we see in Gaza.
And I'm making very clear that there should be no kind of military action in Lebanon that looks anything like Gaza.
Both Hezbollah and the IDF have been involved in a cross-border escalation since October 7 last year. Each time Hezbollah has listed the Gaza ceasefire as a precondition to de-escalate tensions. But this time round, Naim Qassem, the deputy leader of Hezbollah, did not seek this condition to restore calm in Lebanon. Qassem, now Hezbollah's top official after its chief Hassan Nasrallah was killed in an Israeli strike, said that he backed efforts by Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabi Berri, a Hezbollah ally, to secure a truce without setting a precondition.
We support the political efforts Nabi Berri is undertaking towards a ceasefire. In any case, after the ceasefire is established and diplomacy is able to achieve it, all other details will be discussed and decisions will be taken collectively.
In practice, however, Qasim's power within the party was limited under Nasrallah. Hashim Saifuddin, a cousin of Nasrallah who oversees the group's political affairs and not Qasim, was generally regarded as the leader's heir apparent. But no announcement has been made, and Saifuddin has not appeared or made any public statement since Nasrallah's death.
Israel and Iran have not been on the same page for decades now, but in the most recent, they have become in war. Iran fired missiles at Israeli targets, and Israel has warned that it is ready to carry on lethal attacks in Tehran. Now Tehran says its days of caution are over. We tell you more.
World leaders, mediators and peacemakers are struggling to prevent what they do not want in West Asia. A bloody war between Israel and Iran. After Iran rained missiles on its arch-enemy, Israel has warned its response will be lethal, precise and surprising.
Just as we have been doing until now in the war on all other fronts, whoever attacks us will be hurt and will pay a price. Our attack will be deadly, precise and above all surprising. They will not understand what happened and how it happened. They will see the results.
The Israeli army even displayed the wreckage of a Khyber-Sheikhan medium-range ballistic missile launched by Iran last week. Between their first missile attack in April and the recent attack on October 1st, Iran has switched from liquid fuel cruise missiles and drones to solid fuel ballistic missiles with a higher explosive payload in an effort to evade the Israeli air defense. As Israel weighs its response to Iran, Tehran has declared that its days of unilateral self-restraint are over.
We recommend the Zionist regime not to test the resolution of the Islamic Republic. If any attack against our country takes place, our response will be more powerful.
The timing and intensity of any retaliatory strikes against Tehran was on the agenda at the talks in Pentagon between Israel's defense minister and his US counterpart. But late Tuesday, the Pentagon said the meeting was abruptly postponed. Israel's options range from symbolic strikes on military targets to crippling attacks on Iran's vital oil industry or its secretive and heavily fortified nuclear program. Tehran says it is fully prepared to fight Israel in any scenario. Local media reports say that Tehran has sent its oil tankers back to a key Persian Gulf oil export hub after evacuating them last week. Two VLCC supertankers belonging to the National Iranian Tanker Company are reportedly loading oil at Kharg Island, home to a massive terminal from which 90% of the Islamic Republic's oil is exported. At present, Iran is also courting support from the Gulf Arab nations, with Tehran's top diplomat visiting these states. His meetings so far have included ceasefire mediator Qatar and another top oil exporter, Saudi Arabia. Iran has asked the Gulf to shut its airspace for any retaliatory attacks against Tehran. The Gulf states are lobbying Washington to stop Israel from attacking Iran's oil sites because they are concerned their own oil facilities could come under fire from Tehran's proxies if the conflict escalates. Washington is also trying to court the Gulf. After naming Saudi Arabia as a key defense partner last month, Pentagon Chief Lloyd Austin said he has spoken to Saudi Arabia's defense minister, Prince Khalid bin Salman, on Monday. Pentagon affirmed Washington's commitment to the kingdom's defense and thanked Riyadh for promoting calm in West Asia.
from Iran to Turkey, another part of West Asia. Now, Turkey is one of Israel's strongest critics in the region. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is saying that after Gaza and Lebanon, Turkey is next and Israel is planning to attack in Turkey. Now, the Turkish parliament has been carrying on closed-door sessions about the war in West Asia. Listen in.
One of the strongest critics of Israeli operations in Gaza, Turkey's President worked against Israel at his party's first meeting of the new legislative year. Tayyip Erdogan said Tel Aviv's purpose of pursuing a delusioned promised land will only face disappointment and defeat. He doubled down, saying after Gaza and Lebanon, Israel will target Turkey.
The Israeli administration, which is acting with the delirium of promised lands, will set its sight on the soil of our homeland with a complete religious fanaticism after Palestine and Lebanon. I am saying this clearly. Right now, this is what the whole plan is about.
Even as Erdogan spoke, Turkish Navy ships docked in Beirut to bring humanitarian aid to Lebanon and evacuate Turkish citizens. Amid the escalating Israeli attacks, Turkey has evacuated nearly 1,000 people from Lebanon. Turkish parliament also discussed the spread of war in West Asia at a closed-door session. But the Turkish opposition feels Erdogan is using security to deflect public attention from Turkey's economic problems.
If the president leading the state is showing the reflexes of a party leader while he has his president hat on, and if he says in relation to security concerns, "You are hungry, you are poor, you are unemployed, but you need to stand by me. The danger is big, Israel will attack," then it's a different issue. That's why we said, come tell us during the closed session, convince us and we will do what's necessary.
Turkey halted all trade with Israel in May, and in August, Ankara filed a request with a UN court to join South Africa's lawsuit accusing Israel of genocide in Gaza. Erdogan has further called for Israel to be punished in international courts, while criticizing Western nations for backing Israel. He has even compared Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to Adolf Hitler. The two countries had normalized ties in 2022 after years of tensions, but they quickly deteriorated after the war broke out.
The cycle of violence can turn into grief, then resentment and rage. Well, for Palestinians, many of the times it turns into art. Let's take a look at this Gazan rapper that issued his song from his studio in Egypt. It is resonating with everyone in Gaza. Let's take a look.
لسه سامع في صراخ قوله أمهات وأطفال قوله لا هنا ما ننصاع قوله صرنا نحسب النساء.
الحرب هذه غيرت فينا كثير خلتنا نآمن.
When I wrote the track, it carried a year of pain with it. It didn't make sense because we've been slaughtered in front of the whole world for a year and no one is doing anything.
كل شيء بالسياسة.
That's all we have for you on this episode of the West Asia Post. I will see you next week with a brand new lineup, always bringing you the most recent updates, news, and ground reports from the world's most volatile region. I'm your host, Radi Francis, signing off from Beirut, Lebanon. For more global news, keep on watching WION World is One.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yowon.com.
This week on Tech It Out. Since October is Cyber Security Awareness Month, we will share with you some best practices that can help you stay safe online. We show you a device that can improve the life of stroke patients and find out about the latest developments in the world of robotics. This and more on WION World is One at these times.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
We bring you this week's festive episode of Wings from the ground at CR Park in New Delhi, where people throng to celebrate Durga Puja. We also explore the story and history of Dussehra and cover the 9-day dance festival Garba. This week is all about celebrating India's festive season, so tune in this weekend on WION World is One.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Mozambique holds a general election on the 9th of October, but voters fear they will be deprived of a fair and democratic electoral process. The Southern African nation and is one of the poorest countries in the world, despite its vast natural gas deposits. Kenya's Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua apologizes to his boss, President William Ruto, and citizens after lawmakers launched an impeachment proceeding.
If you insubordinate the state, you are not worth being a state officer.
And Ethiopia's capital hosted thousands at the Irecha Heritage Festival on one end of Addis Ababa, and on the other, thousands celebrated an annual religious festival marked by the lighting of bonfires, according to the beliefs of the local Orthodox Christian faithful. That's this week on World of Africa, at these times on WION World is One.
The US race to power, marked by high-octane campaign rallies, life-threatening encounters, game-changing presidential debates, the color and the drama, the key defining moments, deep insights